How else do you propose to rehabilitate humans who refuse to cooperate with the laws as you should see them written? Your jest about the skateboard betrays you. You wouldn't shoot me for hitting you with a skateboard. What if I put it this way instead? If in the dark of night, amongst the chaos of fleeting bodies flying in directions all around, you trip and fall as I come up with the rollerblade raised above my head, do you reach for the gun at your side? Or even worse, you round a city block to see me poised above your son, wailing on him with just a skateboard, blood pouring from every facial orifice as I attempt to unlock his gray matter. When you tackled me, would you cease your own pummeling before my life was extinguished? And would not such retribution be justified, as it was your son's life I sought? Whatever. Writing bullshit. The real point is the nonchalance used to discuss the realities around our pursuit for progress achieves the opposite. But the only way to combat falling into the same habits that undermine previous accomplishments is to recognize how the desires, beliefs we praise impacts all lives in its fruition. I know I'm completely fucked. I can't think of any other justification for the torture of incarceration, holding other humans against their will, except in the cases the being forced this on another. Fear not, for I am consistent on that logic. Life for a life, to the extent rape victims should oversee the same for their perpetrator, a beatdown for aggravated assault, no hand for theft, but equal theft in return. But now it's getting complicated in the details. I mean, how do we handle the Madoffs of the world? Such murky territory. You've spoken yourselves about the questions around the ethics of imprisoning those merely impoverished to a point of desperation, but murderers still rot in a cell. This is a waste, is the simplest statement, for their life is forfeit, and the victims should have their justice, not herded into the arms of vengeance. I ask, is anything truly learned, even in the instances of mercy, if the culprit seeks not the repercussions for themselves? Real justice comes from the understanding by the offender that their deeds can and should be done in return to them. Of course, we can't forget how often we badly screw up arresting the correct individual, seemingly happy as a nation race to accept someone in that desperate poverty class, equal to those at the opposite end of the spectrum getting leniency, or outright, we're told nothing happened here. Happened there. What's justice look like in these cases? We all help muddy the conversation, though, by trying to equate our suffering with certain facts of life that can't be compared to the atrocities committed by the opposite side. Right, TYT? Fighting fire with fire should not be a cliche. We achieve nothing when poisoning our discussions with such a mentality, even when coupled with proper humility. I can't even begin to show any of y'all's videos to those I share my existence with, for at best they just get pissed off shutting down after one phrase, and at worst they totally miss the heart of the matter because of what amounts to the same underlying cause. I agree, in some fashion, that correlation without causation is a problem humanity has struggles with. But this goes doubly in my mind for the manner we conduct ourselves towards one another. Human beings on this planet seem to hit blind spots in response to stressors without an instant answer, hiding behind quotations of prominent assholes or fucking comedy. Whatever silly shit helps pull us from critical thought to a place of confidence. Spiraling. I fucking loathe all comparisons, stereotypes, analysis of our behavior. Our obsession with comprehending the malignancy, charity of others should lead us to a recognition over its drivers and reveal methods to overcome, emulate, but the meticulous thought processing leading to this knowledge seems to be lost after the confirmation sought is acquired. Usually I see this take the form of popularity. A figure appears in our screens, papers, and societal topics, crying out against follies relevant to our lives, exciting our imaginations, encouraging us to see the individual as the guy, the one to get to the core of the problems and fuck some shit up on our behalf. Even in this day and age where we've come up with a word for every conceivable vocal trick used to sway the gullible amongst us, we cheer the loudest when they're used to call out our agonies, stressors. The whataboutism isn't a one-sided issue to me, nor does the claim that violence is solely on the heads of a specific party, denomination, or collective of humans ring true to my personal experience. Anecdotal, though, right? My disgraceful inability to speak coherently and the conservative nature of my rearing left me as low-hanging fruit for ridicule. I was too open to change from my family elders and to set my ways for my peers and generation. For my peers' generation, and, sure, the unencountered forgotten knowledge, facts coupled with the occasional mental and physical jeering isn't the same as being shot at or beat down, hunted by the symbol, on a daily. But that's because it's mine. No individual experience should ever be compared with others, at all, but at the very least in such a style as to dissuade the victim from recognizing injustice, even when they indeed were in the wrong, linguistically and or in the actions taken towards in society. The ease in which we elevate one story and denigrate another nauseates the ass-shitting fuck out of me. I care not how many relevant similarities are evident in the situation, for we speculate on separate beings that we know not the mind of, as none knows our own. God, I'm fucking talking circles, and yet so many of the factors mentioned are the ones I feel lead us to reject more than just the suppositions, instances put forth in our lives, feeling it necessary to refute the entity as a whole for all. We hear so much, including the plight of one another, but we're only listening to our own thoughts as we engage. I get it. The categorization and dissemination of our thoughts, deeds, environment into a form that can be related to by those who were not witnesses to the subject has positive qualities. So does fecal matter. The habitual use of these meaningless noises to promote others to feel a sense of compulsion, disgrace, camaraderie, hope, or even hate and love invariably lay a path for hypocrisy. The road to hell is paved in good intentions. What crap, and yet how better to state it simply. Heh. How about the pen is mightier than the sword? I don't see a solution to violence other than a utopia scenario of every single person understanding every damn dumbass superficial form the word takes and consciously avoiding all of it. Till such a time, those who recognize these feelings of aggression that seed such actions must force every single ounce of their existence to show and teach the opposite. Meaning even when there is failure as we live, we accept it, apologize, not just a sorry, but a full accounting of what was done. Yeah, I understand the knee-jerk maneuver to avoid suffering such humiliation, even in the worst-case scenarios. To verbalize against this, thine self, openly in a straightforward manner, might make it sound as bad as, well, we knew it was. We just justified the offense with thoughts of an understanding of company on our intent, maybe validation of majority opinion, experience knowledge given from others, or that it's just a joke. Why then is it so hard to separate the heckling method getting a rise from the reaction outcome we had assumed would result? For fuck's sake, you asswipes get me in such a passion I find myself defending fucking Trump Biden. Motherfucker deserves death, not just public humiliation for his encouragement of the same, and probably a couple rapings alongside the theft of every item he holds, I'd imagine. When does justice become served? How long do you keep taking the easy pickings, throwing insults like punches? Is it when the offender acknowledges it with words, assets, when a court system orders some form of retribution, or maybe when karma catches up? At the time any of these might be fulfilled, will the resolution be acceptable, considered enough to balance the scales? Or is it just an all lifelong issue till, in our honest, humble opinion, the culprit showed they had learned their lesson? So quick we are to wield our First Amendment for the defense of good. The fact we still argue about speech shows just how much we don't really want to fix the problem. Because at its heart, it works the same for us. Content to just sink further, inventing slogans, terminology, slang to separate ourselves from the others who are the real issue. Like guns, language is just a tool. How we utilize it is said to dictate subsequent actions at times. As I hear it, those who bring these arguments to the table seem to fall short on continuing certain lines of thought, usually those that could start to conflict with the call to others they offer. Criminals get pushed through our system, suffering while the outside applies layers, blinders. Then when they come amongst us, they're given criteria, oversight, and a healthy dose of skepticism, demonization from all us perfect, law-abiding citizens. I would argue even those released having served what was deemed justice to its full don't rejoin with the freedoms that are enjoyed by their peers. Sorry again, citizens that would never commit such an act. They certainly aren't owed any courtesy, respect, right? Though that's the kicker about the masses, who don't need 12 and somebody in fancy garb to exact what minuscule power to hold those in high places to account. That's why we keep getting our shots in on Trump-Biden, am I wrong? The clever witticisms, judgmental ponderings tossed around at his expense is a call for the ulterior form of justice. The only choice that people had outside violence and their courts. Putting aside all previous instances of acquittal that are brought up on loop to keep our attention. Get the fuck over the January 6th riot. The whole thing. Every last aspect. Fuck. Not a thrice damned insurrection. Oh, there was an attempt at one, but it wasn't that ragtag, chaotic mob that couldn't cognitively reason literally 5 seconds beyond each step, needing all focus on getting their mind-altering chants straight. Heralding freedom, truth, a return to morality with the same breath used to place these at the feet of one man. That's the trick. When confronted with the flaws around the actions behind the chants, just pull it all back to the dude. A kingdom divided. Your own fucking minds are divided on itself. You can't claim independence and freedom while wanting to sacrifice all of it to an individual, let alone the fact that in this instance, Trump-Biden was as much ingrained with the problem as any of these candidates we've had in my lifetime, at least. I would speculate that the whole rigged election malarkey resonates with people because we know it's fucking true. Even all you fuckers that are suddenly on the other side whistling nothing to see here. Who was it crying foul in 2000, and rightfully so? Who called attention to the fuckery of 2015 and 2019 primaries, for fuck's sake? How many godforsaken books have been written covering our obvious fucking over of a group of people out of their rights? Just like Trump-Biden, soon as the outcome gives you a believed win, well, obviously the system works. No governmental cabals pulling strings. That's all conspiracy, or the individual being propped up overcame and defeated the institutional hierarchy. Elections didn't change that drastically between the time Trump called out fraud working for him to the moment he tried to rile up his followers over whatever convoluted evidence any fart-sucking fanatic would present with remote semblance of charisma. He loved saying he won, that the deep state put their candidate in the White House. Why wasn't he specific? Why didn't he lay out piece by piece, step by step, the methods with which this 2020 presidential run was weighted against him, instead of pointing at anyone looking for his table scraps? Yet Trump was so well versed, he knew these happenings before the event even unfolded, and still couldn't let us in on how the spaghetti's made. Any of you lovers of the Constitution rallying behind speech like fake news, critical race theory, trigger the Dems, or lock her up for some governmental nuance, or Blue Lives Matter, or Blue All Lives Matter as a response to the cries against tyranny and wealth redistribution. All of it at its core, shit you'll rail against in a heartbeat. Why continue to buy into the narrative spewed about Antifa, Black Lives Matter, radical leftists? These groups, Americans, your equals, understand the same trials that plague you. Weep for the same causal oppressions that run rampant through our society, our world. We cannot possibly be at enmity with each other over a mere difference of opinion on how to achieve the same goal, peace on earth. What a clown show. The most disadvantaged peace is better than the most just war. Two sides of the same coin. We create our little cliques, using consolidation to promote what we hope to be progression, improvement. Now if everyone would just get with the program, right? The results of elections affecting laws and the way they're carried out is not skewed against us due to nefarious intent, or secret rules for a certain group, or smoke-filled backrooms. No, it's right in our faces, plastered amongst us, blatant for all to see, infecting our state and even local governments all the way down to communal assemblies. People like the Clintons, the Trumps, the Bushes and Obamas, the Kochs and Soroses, the Kindlers and Sacklers, the Waltons and Bezoses, the Sulzbergers and Murdochs, the Copelands and Sharptons, the Gateses and Jobses, and all the other subcategories of enterprises not represented right there are just that. Human beings. Not special or different, only unique because none of us are them. Other than that, they fraternize amongst us, dream of better times, strive for prosperity, and take a vested interest in the way we conduct ourselves from the bottom to the top, suffer, plead, and fear, just like anybody else. That's why it's not the Illuminati, Freemasons, corporate elites, billionaires, capitalists, socialists, pulling the strings. Oh, I'm sure they try, no doubt. And they're trying against each other, needing a plurality of our loves, obedience, God, our cooperation, to evaluate the good and cease all the bad shit. Oh, I'm sure they try, no doubt. And they're trying against each other, needing a plurality of our love, obedience, God, our cooperation, to evaluate the good and cease all the bad shit. They all rub elbows, then act, speak in smug or judgmental manners towards the opponents when the cameras roll. a commonality to all of us, just like a cause for the behavior, encompassing life choices up to and after death that we've tightly bound to currency. I could use any number of names, it matters not. They're taking the same actions we all do regardless of scale, seeking to take the environment they've inherited and go further, profit, achieve success, and why rarely they touch each other's bread, because it's theirs too. The best you fucks calling out Trump could accomplish was hardening the hearts of others. Is my statement that wrong when all you really offered in response at the end of the day is fealty to a different puppet? Fucking dumbass, Chris. The puppet you... Fuck it. Never mind. Clarifying idiocy is like polishing a turd. For real though, is it so much better to have someone speaking sweet futures in our ears with calm tones and intellectual prowess when the standard operating procedures continue? 'Cause I guess throw my foil hat in with the deplorables, as I find the doublespeak more disgusting and reprehensible than blatant, nigh, even willful ignorance. Trump's buffoonish actions as president to control the ever-moving standard was literally no different than any other prominent figure in the history of our race. But more specifically, all are a product of our instincts manifested on a national scale, which to get there, the top of the pyramid, the real bosses, those on the minute scale, those on the minute scale, have to support and approve, at the very least, with deed. Our state, city, and county laws, the way we treat the next generation. Going down from macro to micro is just the nature of how I went down the rabbit hole, and I've allowed my insanity to run wild seeing this silliness everywhere. The drama playing for all our eyes in every grand style of media is just an extension of our reactions within our own lives. The sentiment, mo money, mo problems, I assume was a recognition that as more wealth is accumulated, more responsibilities are inherent alongside it. Not just the freeloaders coming out the woodworks, or a target manifesting on the back. Heck, fuck, I'm never gonna end this the way I want it. All those put into the positions with which we deem in charge of affecting change seem to leave unfortunate common conclusions in their wake. Same with D's and R's, or the many voices screeching states' rights, what's our government even for? Our little catchphrases don't mean what I think we want them to. Truly, let's all cheer for being bent over a stool by state legislators instead of federal ones. Not like they're funded in the same fucking way. Honestly, not sure if I see running into the arms of more power put into the hands of a single human to stop the big meanies as worse. Oh my, I really want to go fucking nuts with conspiracy. Pointing fingers at all our monopolies, dancing with our national institutions like the stock market, the reserve, our military budget, state national taxes, business societal regulations, but it would just prove fruitless. The only thing I would prove at the end is that they are all are trying to run their businesses, every little nuance or detail providing a distraction. No, Chris. A legitimate process of interpreting evidence that contradicts any accusations of cooperative decimation. I guess what I'm getting at is sorry, Brazil. But your silly imitation of our stupidity is indeed a representation of you just like our own, because they're us, fellow citizens, and until we can empathize at a level to take the craziest arguments for their face value, we will never succeed at showing the moment where truth becomes twisted, replacing the misjudgment, fractured comprehension with knowledge, wisdom, or even a tiny bit of the peace realized in dispelling unwarranted fear. I was going to include a quote to kind of explain that little name toss, but for the fucking life of me, I can't verify any damn sources. Fuck if everything ain't just fucked behind a god-fucking mother-ass shitting paywall. Fuck. Bitching shit-ass hell if it don't make a lick of damn difference anyway. Fucking breathe. I could slap any country's name in there, swap some pronouns, proper nouns around, maybe the tenses of verbs, and bam, said the same damn thing with another set of words. The douchebags who manage impactful environmental structures, inarguably having brought forth levels of freedom previously tested but unacknowledged by the whole, prove time and time again that no matter what credentials they point to, they are every bit the same as the rest of us. We allow those bought by their own agenda to speak for us, rich dick cunts seemingly playing us in opposition to one another as they sit back together watching us lose our shit while sipping wine. I'm shit. Now if I can bring myself to make some sense. I swear I keep going on the attack against wealth, and I fear it paints the wrong picture. I can't help but to throw a majority of my ire in your direction, as you hold a significant portion of the resources that may be used for all these noble ambitions. I apologize because every fucking one of you makes no difference at all. Unique, not different. I could replace literally every last one of you with the poorest or most deserving or well-intentioned, competent humans on this planet, and not one damn aspect of our world, nations, societies would change. And I find it incredibly depressing that I have so much confidence in such a statement. The medieval dude I quoted a bit ago was acquainted with Martin Luther, the guy who stood up to the Catholic Church of the time, started another sect, and shared Desiderius's sentiments on war. But Luther, perhaps, made one statement I can't agree with, coincidentally, on belief in God. Faith must trample underfoot all reason, sense, and understanding. Of course, I'm straying from the point, which would be his quote. War is the greatest plague that can affect humanity. It destroys religion, it destroys states, it destroys families. Any scourge is preferable to it. These quotes are probably false, as I couldn't verify. Just stop, Chris. Doesn't matter, since the latter has similar sentiments shared across time by others, so pick your favorite and insert there. The silly little phrase used was just to show a problem with the thought, as it is not war that does these things. I don't want to repeat myself yet. So instead, let's just acknowledge I prefer the words of Tacitus. A bad peace is even worse than war. For I see war the same as language, guns, abortion, science, maths, and in general, our evolution over history. A specific set of actions done by us. The flowery rhetoric surrounding it only suitable for wishful thinking on how we might not be the problem, as a group, or the whole. While Luther may not have said those specific phrases, we do have records we attribute to his pen or mouth besides his 99 Theses. And from what I gather, he was a pacifist, or accused of such during a time Europe was at one height of religious zealotry. He also supposedly wrote an entire book proving there were exceptions to peace, at the least in conjunction with his raging hatred of Jews, giving us quotes like, "Therefore be on your guard against the Jews, knowing that wherever they have their synagogues, nothing is found but a den of devils in which sheer self-glory, conceit, lies, blasphemy, and defaming of God and men are practiced. They are nothing but thieves and robbers, who daily eat no morsel and wear no thread of clothing which they have not stolen and pilfered from us. I brief, dear princes and lords, those of you who have Jews under your rule, set fire to their synagogues or schools, and to bury and cover with dirt whatever will not burn, done in honor of our Lord and Christendom. I advise that their houses also be razed and destroyed, for they pursue in them the same aims as in their synagogues. Instead, they might be lodged under a roof or in a barn, like the gypsies." Whose fucking barn or roof? You're calling on all good Christians to ostracize them for wanting the same freedoms you fucks enjoy. Oi. The only point there is, regardless if the war quote was from Luther, war is not the only action capable of destroying families, homes, infrastructure, and or morality ethics. Unless we want to classify peace as just the civil war of its people for one sect to achieve greater wealth and means over the rest of their fellow citizens. Well, then we can just pretend war is always going on despite any change in the field of battle. That doesn't sound familiar at all. Look, I just cannot accept that any form of control exacted on an individual basis leads to the removal of the constant common issue, which to me is the control, is us. We keep pointing the fingers, wanting those we demagogue to accomplish tasks from our words, but that doesn't teach the mannerisms that succeeded in any enlightened conclusion touted. Of course, I think some are smart enough to understand that, and use stupid circular logic purposefully to keep us at odds so nothing really changes. I'm ludicrous. Completely off the topic. I just can't understand why there isn't more common consent on how to avoid being played by those with greater access to knowledge and resources. All the crying and whining over Biden's ineffectual methods for ending Trump-era policies. For fucking real? Talking about the same person who literally masked off before Trump ever made the shit popular for half the country. Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt, but I thank you for that. The system does produce corruption. The fortunate thing is that I don't have many larger contributors. The fortunate thing is that I didn't have many larger contributors, and the only reason... See, I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself in the manner in which I talk about. But what happened was they said, "Come back when you're 40, son." The only reason I was able to raise the money is that I was able to have a national constituency. I'm like the token black or token woman. I was the token young person. So much mud to sling, and not just from the out-of-context quotes I pulled. Fuck it. I'm not saying all you progressive voices, civil rights champions, anti-fascists, should have been there on January 6, 2021, screaming Trump's name, marching to the Capitol. We should have been there to show you could be done with the circus without having to bend over backwards to lick the anus of the ringleader emblazoned with your favorite animal. Fucking absolute morons cheering Trump's name. Fucking absolute morons cheering Trump's incessant bawling of fraudulent election. Just be glad your silly mob wasn't touting significant firepower. Fucking retards playing into these assholes' hands. What you think would have happened if that group of secretly federal agents, underhanded Antifa, peaceful protesters, innocent Americans just taking a tour was truly armed in any sense? I can tell you. Even if the display of violence that would ensue was successful in swaying those still left of co-signing the actual legislative pencil-pushing required to subvert the original decision, every fucking one of us would be done with that freedom. You know, that second one. No matter which party rose to power, the damage would be done. Proof, evidence that we weren't capable of conducting ourselves with such temptations at our fingertips available for all to see, and have repeated every 60th seconds. If my poor and brief call to history throughout this wasn't enough to back my claim, go read, listen to some more. The recurring themes, just kinda similar to relatable events, will be fun and exciting for you. Hell, in my eyes, the similarities as blatant as the identical fear and desperation the loudest voices seem to repeat, whether the name attached is Biden, Bernie, so on and so forth, or Trump, DeSantis, ditto. You don't need them to be a fucking supervillain. You just have to show the actual evidence of how they are as bought by the system as any other, causing the overall oppression coming from the stock that loves to play vizier, using their First Amendment to thumb the scale. Those hard-working, talented oligarchs fall all over themselves for the silly pieces of paper nuance, as they know that's really all our government and similar institutions are at heart. What I view as the attempted insurrection, a push further down the road of good management structure, totalitarianism. It had nothing to do with the future scapegoats. Hang Mike Pence. Oh boy, now that shit was fucking hilarious. Anyone taking half a glance at the historical context around that archaic rule could instantly see, oh yes, Pence did have that authority. The issue was that the point of that particular failsafe was to prevent motherfuckers exactly like Trump from cowing the entire system of accountability for those who like to pretend they're above it. I guess, despite all the gaslighting he and others did around the matter, Pence never pulled the ultimate disgrace through though my pessimism likes to tell me that in an opposite scenario, that's the kind of bull hockey that gets eaten right up. What doesn't fly so smoothly is bloodshed. The slaughter of respectable peers, people at equal standing to those with clearly better opinions, but that doesn't call for barbarism in our places of discourse, regardless of disagreement. Money is speech. Fucking disgusting. Corporations are people. Shittin' ludicrous. The Emperor's New Clothes shtick I heard repeatedly about Trump in the start of his term wasn't supposed to be used as a term of mockery about the dude himself. He wasn't the fucking emperor. He was the damn clothes, for fuck's sake. That's why all the upper class and media worried about their precious economy flipped their lid. He was blatantly pulling all their favorite tricks by utilizing a defense that boiled down to takes one to know one. And the truth gets fought, buried, smothered, and or twisted. Hence everybody just say the first thing that comes to your mind and create a good-sized cacophony. Fucking silence, Christopher. The reason Trump is awful is because he used the promise of an outside perspective to obscure the reality of the outside influence wanting a spot in the limelight. His policies amounting to nothing more than a continuation of the analogical accomplishments of Obama, Bush, Clinton, Reagan, Carter, Ford, Nixon, Johnson, Kennedy, etc. That is, the mindset of how our society is favored in one direction never faltered with him as with the others. It's why nothing but the optics changed under Biden. Why the cocks at the microphone, even if there be abhorrence at Trump's messaging or actions, are still playing with the idea of another go from him. And ultimately why he seemingly won't face any justice for his crimes. Nothing actually changed. Ever changed. Nothing. For the love of all I have left to hold dear, fuck this shit. Time to end this absolutely fucked rant of a 7-page paragraph or whatever. All I guess I can say is, in the whole Rittenhouse debacle, sucks, huh, TYT, to have the shoe on the other foot. All you gun barrel fucking simps, I see. All you gun barrel fucking simps I see waggling your ill-forgotten freedoms and half-baked talking points for all to witness. I would have pissed myself laughing had it not been so miserably disheartening to hear so many switch their tune of alpha male gun-toting seriously fun and a serious responsibility to uphold freedom, to crying and wailing in the defense of a child's... Nope. I will not insult children like seems to be popular. In the defense of a cognizant being's series of actions that literally spits in the face of everything you pretend to stand for. I don't even want to hear a word in disagreement with all the cucking you did for the Trump party and your sycophantic supporters filling your pockets. The jackasses don't want guns for everybody, aren't interested in responsible individual control and ownership. That was the shit meant for them and their rich-ass elite buddies. Oh sure, I'm positive any eager loyalist can get a pass, but is that really the Second Amendment you clamor about? Say Trump, after all your fawning and gun-touting in his name, approaches you, a red-blooded, freedom-loving, independent thinker beholden to God, family, country in that order, telling you to prove your loyalty and grab him by the pussy. You think if even remote hesitation flickers across your face that you won't be one of the enemy that doesn't deserve the same rights, non-American. And am I even fucking saying these words right now? Suck sweaty rhino balls. I'm done. Just one more thing. We have got to talk about the fundamentals of our worldview, which is different from the left, different from the godless, atheist, constructivist, liberal worldview. A society where women don't have the right to vote, like mothers raising their children and it looks like pornography being banned and homosexuality and transsexuality, as well as heterosexual sodomy, as well as fornication and adultery being shamed by the society and maybe in some places, in some jurisdictions regulated by the law. It's not enough to say we're against censored. You got to be against women's rights too. It's not enough to be against blue-haired feminism. You got to be against women getting educated. So we're burning your gay pride flag. We're burning your gay pride float. And then we're going to drag your censored wife out of her house, kicking and screaming. And then we're going to burn her at the stake too for being a witch. I see you, Nick Fuentes, and all of you who entertain even the smallest aspects of such weak and cowardly fantasies. Let me assure you that if I ever witness anything close to such actions where I can be physically present, you better hope you have law enforcement with you in supporting your actions, because I will not be calling them, and you'll need every advantage you can get. I swear it's not even giving me pause. I just love when a nigger brings his whole crew, just a bigger piece of cake for me to chew a hole through. So Christ walks into a hotel and throws down a few nails on the counter, saying, "Innkeeper, put me up for the night." Yaluhila and I always got a good chuckle out of that joke. Not a good icebreaker in the heart of the Midwest, though. Jokes, humor, joy, happiness. While I'm sure this surprises no one still around, comedy was completely lost on me for at this point, still a majority of my life. I found most forms of jokes and humor either insulting or simply nonsense for the sake of such, and I wanted no part of it. Probably just envious I didn't get to be the one telling the jokes. Besides the point, during those hazy early teen years, I discovered one of the things I did find funny was macabre shit. Darker humor was little I found honestly laugh-inducing, though my exposure was pretty limited, my mother being the only one from early youth that I remember regularly cracking the less daisies and daffodils witticisms. I wouldn't draw the connection till I started seeking evil shit for a laugh, which came after finally watching my first genuine horror movie, Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. Instantly in love. Dumbass motherfuckers finally getting their just desserts for retarded decisions and poorly thought malicious demeanors towards peers. Purely delightful. Heh. Maybe I have changed a little over the years. Meh. There was just something about the over-the-top ultimate consequence paid for foolishness I saw saturating existence that put an authentic smile on my face. As I would experience more of the genre, most would fall into the same category, whether this was the intent or not. But my all-time favorites would give me other subjects for introspective. Horror quickly stood out as the pinnacle of artistic expression for motion pictures to me. I would argue vehemently for it. Horror quickly stood out as the pinnacle of artistic expression for motion pictures to me, and I would argue vehemently for it. No other genre of entertainment remotely related would unapologetically showcase topics of survival, manipulation, hatred, and or hopelessness, themes that I found equally prevalent in reality, if not of equal merit to all other expressions. All good things come to an end, though. My whole counterculture, cult classic, contrarian love wasn't as niche, which had prior been some fucked up source of research. Fucked up source of self-confidence for reasons. It took many years to quench the dominating disgust for all the gaiety derived from the plethora of popular poetry, songs, musicals, movies, television, books, stories, speeches, sports, games, hell, advertisements, products, repetitiously harping, nauseating topics of charity and caring and hope and kindness and knowledge and patience and reason and fucking fantastical lovely shit. Now if it was all just real. All I experience are jokes. Bunch of unrecognized comedians jacking their material from the same sources I just brought up and then some. Fucking hated professional comedians above so much other shit as a teenager. Worthless air wasters, just so fucking clever with the quips, the one-liners, table-turning comebacks, and insights. Here's some funny shit that ain't a joke. The only one of you that even got half a real chuckle out of me abstemious was Dane Cook. Worthless pieces of shit gravitate, I guess. Not shockingly, they were the pokes at messing with religious figures or whispering at the drive-thru. I would say something about being a teenage boy, but I'm laughing now just recalling it. One of the greatest teachings Esteros and Yalahila imparted to me during our time together was the ability to enjoy at least some forms of comedy other than non-conventional media, mostly funny to pretty much only me till that point. Cat Williams is still one of the funniest motherfuckers alive for me, despite, well, you know what I do by this point to figures I find intriguing. It's pretty tempting to blame the weed for opening up to enjoyment, since it was also... It's pretty tempting to blame the weed for opening up to enjoyment, since it was also with my roommates that I started smoking regularly. However, I do actually believe the cliche, you can't blame the drugs. I just apply that equally. Yeah, it probably made it a whole lot easier, though. Probably why I won't detach myself from Mary Jane to this day, and got no plans to either. Finally out from my parents' thumb, I still hadn't mellowed. Still held a philosophy that regardless of circumstances, the proper method for handling any situation was head on. Fuck the consequences. They'll be dealt with in time. I've had accusations of more stimulating drug use hurled my direction many a time over the years, but that would wreck me. While forming coherent thought with any form of haste is nigh impossible for me baked off my ass, the peace brought to psyche allowed my amped cognizance to stop blindly selecting whatever choice felt accomplished the most physical change. This, in turn, was how I accomplished feeling the smallest portion of sympathy, probably ever, but, memory. Empathy had never been my issue. I could comprehend, occasionally regurgitate, the emotions and or ideologies of those I interacted with, but honestly, I couldn't care less about any of them, even the ones I kinda liked under most circumstances. Passions of reading, study, video games, all held a sense of hollow gratification till it was finally coupled with the emotion of freedom first revealed to me with my new fellow dropout roommates. I had always struggled with sleeping, but I can't call it insomnia, because eventually I would sleep, and usually be very stubborn about staying that way. However, till that point of nigh 20 years on the earth, I had never pulled over 3 solid days happy as a clam with Esteros and I chilling on the couch getting high as our girlfriends Yalohila and Talahur, respectively, would pop in and out from their work schedules. We spoke on backgrounds, politics, religions, music, watching movies, YouTube videos of all the pop culture shit I had shunned, been banned from, and for the first time I felt it, smacking me out of nowhere. A twinge of self-hatred at the thought of murdering him coupled with immense sorrow and coldness. I've mentioned these thoughts coupled with my monstrous urgings before. The difference was this time it wasn't forced. The very mental place I always attributed to such random extremes seemed to balk at what it had just proposed. Here was another human who had suffered so much of the same hardships I had, in many ways far surpassing my own, yet here I sat with betrayal on the mind towards perhaps the first individual who had sat with me to open up on the past and then listened, didn't seek moments to interject or control the conversation, who knew of the troubled desires I battled and projected no judgment, spoke to me as an equal in all facets. The rejection of self was instant, instinctual, and I was elated. I can say I didn't understand joy till then. For once in my life, it occurred to me that I was just another human being. Not special, at best unique. I didn't know how or where or when that immediate, almost subconscious response to a deeply rooted, long-running problematic mentality manifested into existence, but I rejoiced. For the crack in the stone wall did exist. It was time to apply my passions, combining my pathetic love of self-introspection with the petite brain basic understanding of strategy to draw out the part I wanted in order to help kill the logic of the mindsets I felt I might be losing against. I was capable of sympathy, love, mercy. I just had to isolate and imitate. Perfect practice would make perfect actions. The pathways I would decide to go down in my attempts to test and refine the brief reaction into a constant frame of viewing the deeds and or thoughts of everyone, including myself, I doubt my roommates would have ever predicted. When I was real young, one demonstration of my inability to play patty cakes with repetitious bullying, I mean the jokes that like to be told more than once, was with my uncle. Trolling, as we seem to enjoy calling it today, is what basically passes as common comedy amongst the family. Disparagement, sardonicism, taunts, jeers, ridicule, mockery, razz, roast. My parents did an excellent job of imparting at a young age the importance of respect to superiors, and through their example over the years, I concluded that they would get the barest minimum due, as that was what they gave. I may have been a bit too blatant with my first aforementioned family member in this paragraph. Not 100% sure how old I was. I couldn't be much later than 13. And it wasn't the first time he turned a handshake into a match of uncle, but it was the last. I was fed up with this game for laughs at my expense, so this time I didn't throw on a fake laugh or exaggeratingly buckle and dramatically cry for respite. No, with a shit-eating grin, I locked eyes with him and focused on fighting every urge of my form. He thought it was pretty funny too, sneering "better say it" at first, till the look on my face and the messed up angle of my arms started to convince him that he, a full-grown man with 200 plus pounds and over a foot on me, would have to break the arms of a child to get the acquiescence he leered about. I was purposely putting every effort I could speak into portraying without a sound. I was purposefully putting every effort I could spare into portraying without a sound. Please, break your sister's child's arms right in front of her. Do it. You'll get nothing out of me either way. It was over shortly, and while you could say I won that one, I view it as an equal loss to every time I just laughed it all off and or played along. The combative nature of our interactions started escalating till I finally got the opportunity to separate myself from my family, the whole family, and everything to do with them in any nature. Ending this singular source of ire did nothing to teach me the fundamental flaws of these natural human socializations. Instead, I took it as evidence of my psychopathy, another characteristic that needed to be segmented, next isolated, afterward described, and then physically manifested in the form I perceived acceptable, amicable. My belief of failing along this route originates from that petty self-accusation of killing an elderly man, even though that enlightenment only highlighted parallel events. After forcing management to take note of my increasing efficacy, I had hardened my mind behind an ethic of work that demanded the same from all beings. However, I was convinced that the problem of accomplishing of accomplishing the result lay on the shoulders of management more so than they desired to acknowledge. I would never utter such out loud at that point, knowing the idiocy of humanity all too well. But I could not be convinced that those who failed solely on the merits of their own physicality and or mentality. Instead, I had a whole list of tropes I had adopted or developed, usually worded in some neo-meditations facsimile, meaning from the start of working at Little Caesars, I would waste breath on thoughts like self-responsibility, accountability, the mentality applied to tasks no matter the perceived menial importance to the result, the separation of industry requirements and personal pride, of wage and work ethic. Alas, if I could only speak with eloquence. Shit's hard, though, when the most social interaction and therefore knowledge of such I recognize was in the back of a seedy Italian restaurant. War manners is what I called it. Completely ripping off the work of another niche not so unknown as I humiliatingly believed for too long, author Mercedes Lackey. One of the biggest adjustments from restaurant to fast food was a back kitchen. Yeah, in the prior case, you were going to be called and hear things like dumbass, motherfucker, dipshit, asswipe, numbnuts, retard, and more. But it would always be intermingled with specific instructions, the direct action needing completed in that moment, even if in caveman form. For the kitchen to operate when the rush really hit, communication was obligatory. 2-foot wide aisles meandering numerous stoves, grills, fryers, ovens, preparation stations, packed in every available space remaining were storage for ingredients needing conscientious replenishment, and all had to be operated by 6 or more big-ass dudes crammed in the center of it all. It would take a couple years after leaving Little Caesars, but I would realize the difference between these two occupations wasn't fast food to restaurant, but the size of the operations. Ma and Pa versus corporate entity. Little Caesars was refined, utilitarian on paper. Oh, how my pathetically weak and uninspired mind latched on like a fucking newborn to the teat. This was how work was meant to be carried out. To hell with all the confusing lingo, irritated blasting, jovial niggling that passed as training. Here, every minute step was recorded in words on paper readily accessible for study, and there was little room for misinterpretation, only error in reading the instructions. Those filling the positions of management or seniority in Little Caesars still acted almost identically to those I had fashioned bonds with at B's. The increased pace was a rough adjustment, despite the simplification of products sold, perhaps due to the method of imparting knowledge remaining similar. Yell, jeer, cajole, demean the conclusion you desire down your subordinates' throats. It seemed worse because the job requirements were easier. You know, working a teenager's job. Something for the college students, or... Needless to say, as its repetition, I was lacking a combo of mental and physical capabilities which led to my shakerboarding for what might have been till the end of my employment had I not fallen back to my age-old tactic for passing classes in school. Hit the books. My rationalizations were most certainly misplaced and or misguided, though. I still firmly stand by the fault of my inability to achieve the standards quoted had a place on the shoulders of those paid to uphold it. My success at forcing my way back in the store and then up the promotion ladder was all the validation I needed at the time. Just like all the years of my life experienced to that point, people equal shit. where humans fucked around, constantly forgetting to impart necessary details, substituting explanations with the equivocate of just do it, mocking, lambasting over any form of failure. Books didn't give a fuck about your mentality, didn't waste space with useless exposition or insults about the reader, wasn't watching or following up or rushing the shit out of you, changing the format of their instruction. Books laid out all the writer put forth, and it was up to the individual to partake. After another week of Dekpati proving he was far too lazy to provide the training or opportunity in store to practice. After my worthiness had been evaluated and I found its conclusion wanting, I stole the reading material in store for a bit while I combed over it the multiple times I knew it takes me to retain any amount of information. You didn't hear that wrong. You see, those tools were required on hand for training purposes during those totally non-imaginary downtimes when nothing's to be done but get to studying. The display of holding up a wall, wrong, Chris. Supervising definitely encouraged that mindset to push for there's nothing left to be done moments to hit the books on the clock. Oi, regardless of my feelings, I set to prove my thoughts with action. So the second I was offered managing a store, I leapt on it, no hesitation. It was almost impossible to hide my glee from the obvious display of betrayal on Dekpati's face when he found out. Oh, the joy I smothered. Fool thought after I had clawed my way into the scheduling, then management, that I had some loyalty to him, that he and I shared some kind of commonality. This was due to the unfortunate similarities between us beyond atheism, including musicians, movies, TV shows, hell, even our looks to a certain degree. I'm chuckling thinking back at his pathetic defense of Tool as a heavy metal band. I could care less now, but just stay focused for God's sake. As many others before and after him, he mistook my efforts to do my job while exuding level-headedness, patience, and courtesy as kindness, friendship. He got a less rude awakening than others. All of it was inconsequential, for the time had finally been delivered into my hands where I could put my money where my mouth was, even if the inside of my skull was the only one hearing my mouth. It was the perfect starter for my experiment. I certainly didn't find it so in the moment. Inches of dust and grime literally everywhere. Insufficient space and shelving for product and tools. No recognizable organization. And I spent the first 2 weeks almost entirely in the store attempting to set everything in order. 120 plus hours each of those weeks were logged by me on a 50-hour-a-week fast food manager's salary. So began my attempts to forge the path in words and action to show those in my charge a better way for the work to be done. It was the toughest those first few months. I truly wondered if I had bit off more than I could chew. My curtness and inexperience added to the stress of the standards I put on myself, which would have surely led to further failure had not my area supervisor gave me the last piece of advice I needed to complete my transformation. While doubtless it needs no clarification, my lack of social skills made customer service register work my poorest area. I was the one who overcompensated by saturating my voice and body language with sweetness, brightness, and or caring. I mean, years of doing this in my personal life growing up meant I felt most people considered it genuine, though there was always the before my coffee people who basically, in one way or another, would tell me to take it down a notch. To sum it up, I had the ability, I just hadn't put together the strategy, or even end goal, to realize the utility of such characteristics. This was where my area supervisor stepped in. Till this time, despite my efforts, cleaning the house of staff was occurring alongside the store itself, and every employee lost outside of finding a better job was a direct hit to me. I held the ultimate responsibility for every one of them, and it was beginning to destroy me till he came in one day after a particularly bad one where I lost 2 employees with this advice. Don't let work rule you. Don't allow the store's trouble to follow you back home, meaning even to the point of souring your attitude. Most importantly, you can't control what other people do, so stop being upset about it. So long as I was confident that I was training effectively, there was no need to get angry or frustrated because they knew what was required of them, and they either tried at these tasks or 3 strikes on to the next application. It hardly ever reached that point, naturally. Most are not going to stick around and be fired purposefully. I wouldn't ponder this information till a few years down the line, but I was a little too keen on the nice asshole road. The nice asshole role. Heh. Ugly, sick, broke, and stupid. I thought my version of authority was the proper form proven by outcomes, but reality was I just needed a bad day to put myself side by side to any of the acts I considered. Acts I categorized as foolish, unbeneficial, evil. None of the trials I had willingly thrown myself at previously taught me a damn thing. Hence a man with 15 plus years at the company finally raising the white flag and passing from this world only a short while after retiring. Esteros and Yalahila I don't think ever understood the friendship with Cardessio, a big-ass dude with an abrasive character I met working at V's. They would use descriptors more along the lines of bigoted, jerk, bully, fucktard, and so on, and I couldn't really blame them. Esteros certainly had deeper emotional connections to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual community than I, and so the humor of the wannabe Sicilian wankster was not taken graciously. The trial of showing a douchebag that the kindness and mercy in their heart for some, juxtaposed to the pain they had suffered at the hands of social, cultural environments, need not to translate into being a dick for us to kick it, was undermined at every turn by the defensiveness of those I felt had the strength and collective knowledge to see how they were engaging in the same game, just a different angle. Now I was trying to fight a pacifist war on 2 fronts. It was completely useless, as my roommates would get their justification on their judgment when shortly after I was finished having fun with some good cocaine moving through, Cardessio would continue using, get addicted to meth, and rob his own mother with whom he lived with. Piece of shit, huh? Unfortunately, we were done when we basically... Piece of shit, huh? Unfortunately, we were done when he basically chose the drugs. Going to Little Caesars didn't hurt. Faggot, Christina, cockholder. The jokes weren't even inventive, but I don't think they ever had been as repetitive, incessant even, till I met Cardessio. To this day, one of the toughest friendships I maintained. So many times I had to consciously restrain myself from waiting till backs were turned than just stabbing the fucking shit out of them. My roommates were used to the weird, discordant behavior from me. You should have seen the disappointment in the faces when our shared disbelief in Christianity didn't translate to enjoyment of comedic gold, like George Carlin, Idiocracy, or Dogma. These were examples of the worst types of assholes, is the simplest answer. The hilarity was derived from disingenuous portrayals of believers, or straight-up false statements on snippets of the Bible to paint the contradiction supporting their ridicule. You know, 'cause science, truth, maths, history, and all that superior high-minded nonsense. Have you started to hear it now? Gabriel Iglesias, Carlos Mencia, Rodney Dangerfield, Andrew Clay, Steve Hofstetter, Eddie Griffin, Richard Pryor, Corey Holcomb, Andrew Schultz, Aziz Ansari, and any of you who place yourself in the occupation, including all you consumers. You hear your fucking punchlines in this bullshit yet? Should have just said everyone on this fucking planet. Space-related hoaxes, presidential assassinations, flat earthers, Gamergate. Birds aren't real. Y'all just love talking your shit, debunking mainstream narratives or responding to misinformation. None of you sound fucking genuine. Time and time again, I hear folks spew the obviously pre-planned information they think is their ace in the hole, and from where I sit, use it like it's a reject all other palaver card. Looking at you containers of ass, writing your fucking books, papers, chiming in on podcasts, online videos, television interviews. It's your words, your ideals that had me in the moon landing wasn't real camp for way too fucking long. Yeah, I empathize with conspiracists more than is good for my health. Can't seem to help myself when all I hear coming out of the mouths with the knowledge and access to physical evidence for supporting our collective discoveries is a bunch of fucking comedy. That is, of course, if it's not in the format of a debate. Silly ass shit, which sounds like the desperate flinging of statements at one another when, with each party coming away, look at this clip that proves I punked 'em. No fucking authenticity. Couldn't stand debate for that very reason. Seemingly just an excuse for the most popular thought, idea, person of the room to make the opposing side a joke. Pariah. I can't help but chuckle thinking of DMX's lyrics. I think about when a nigga didn't have, and a nigga told a joke, and the bitches didn't laugh. Well, see, now I do the math. I see if you got this, and this, and this, to some cats, that nigga's the shit. You can see that shit anywhere you look. It's why some of us get away with, perhaps behaviors similar to interrupting, insulting, rebelling, commanding, lying, or blustering, and those of us on the out wanting to call it the way we receive it get hit with all the unrelated accomplishments that somehow affiliated with why they get to act in such a manner. Words fail me when I attempt to suffer through the dialogue of peckers, apologies, master debaters, especially you, Vosh. Never in my life did I think I would agree on so much with an individual, yet disagree on every level, 'cause you're a fucking douche. Fuck you. We don't see eye to eye on any of it, even if the same fundamental ideas spring from our larynx. As I see it, you prove you don't believe what we defend with your representation. Why you inevitably fall back on pseudo-intellectual jargon and conventional logic framed as impervious to critique with the promoted conjunctive evidence. Fucking get a hold of yourself, Chris. It's so many figures we trash for high-minded ideals, furthering the progress of humanity because, from what I understand, they were absolute hypocrites. Living garbage. Are there no comparisons to be learned? Nothing to be garnered from compassionate murderers? Nothing to be garnered from compassionate murderers, charitable thieves, brilliant molesters, good-hearted rapists, peaceful bigots, freedom-loving slave owners. It's the goddamn assumption of intent, the villainy, the usage of a truth to ignore or superimpose over facts equal in relevancy. Fucking two-way street. Oi. None of it's any different at any scale. Just unique. Curious if that's helped the rise of such forms of escapism. Just wish the moral of the story was actually being discussed. Instead, it just seems to give everyone their talking points. And immediately I feel like some fucking ass news anchor vomiting donkey dung about video games. It's tough to reject such a natural instinct, but I've been trying, substituting my words with demonstration as best I can, struggling with silence when I wish to rebuke, and showing what I perceive to be the opposite of another's behavior, the better method to impart their knowledge that I know is at the heart of the misdeed. I'm only human, and all that other shit we've discussed. I fuck up because it's nice to receive the same understanding I attempt to offer. I think that was what drew me to the principle of debate in the beginning. A very basic impression of an organized, courteous exchange of those wishing to discuss topics leading to a conclusion, even if that be that neither party agreed in finality of this singular occurrence. It's okay. You can laugh. I know I do when I think of that brief thought before standing in my middle school classroom to hash out a subject that was snuffed in memory to the inconsequential events simultaneous to our report. Constantly interrupted, moderated for similar behavior, and of course can't really finish the debate without an acceptance of ground lost, gained. Learning, you know. Winners and losers. Anyone on some fucking nonsense over that being middle school and kids being fucking blahdy fucking blah blah blah, get the fuck out of your own fuckhole. Nothing changed over years or locations or company. Company. Guess now's as good as time as any to turn my ire to Asplin tree experts and their butt buddies, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I briefly touched on some experiences to throw a few accusations around, but let's get specific. I began employment with Asplin towards the end of Obama's presidency, and briefly thought I could see my 10 years till Alaska plan as a possibility instead of some funny shit I spouted off at the mouth about. Certainly I could finally afford a place of my own, right? Guess I already revealed the cat in that box. Guess I already revealed the cat in the box on that one. Sucks, as I was all full of pomp, joy, and confidence when I netted my first unionized career with a starting pay of over $15. If memory serves me correctly, minimum wage was still hovering between the $7-8 range, and the only option for not appreciating a work scenario being the door. Fucking damn Skippy, I had motherfucking rights now, and a starting wage higher than my GM salary. Year after year, I began to see the cycle of our contract being set on an annual basis, how each term was relayed in a fashion of acquiescence. Each time, this is the best we're going to get. This is the best we're going to get, guys. The national headquarters main branch would have to sign off on a strike. The highest increase we've seen in a decade. Fucking benefits, retirements, back pays, statistics, and whatever fucking nonsense that can be thrown in our face to dissuade from demanding our rights from our employers. New charges today in a 4-year-long FBI corruption investigation of the United Auto Workers Union. The first sign of trouble came 4 years ago when a former Fiat Chrysler financial analyst admitted he'd created false tax returns for UAW officials to hide bribes from company officials and to hide their embezzlement. The U.S. Justice Department said the bribes were made to keep union leaders, quote, fat, dumb, and happy in the 2011 and 2015 contract talks. The FBI is investigating allegations. The FBI is investigating allegations of lavish junkets for Jones and Williams paid for with union dues, as well as possible improprieties by a charity Jones created. I get it, I assure you. I understand the reasoning behind such twisted and convoluted regulations. And no, I'm not going to make more accusations of greed. Or I shall do my best to resist. Hell, I remember vividly, as anyone who has had any managerial duties involving people should, the constant boundary pushing, the loopholes, the lack of focus from employees, the fucking cell phones. Just happened, I didn't know, I saw so-and-so, I thought hoo-ha, drama, gossip, woe is my life. Heard it all, and guess what? I still think we, still own a significant portion of the blame for that shit. When I first started without a fucking clue about tree trimming and never experienced a repetitive physical job, I knew my body would be tested beyond anything before, and I set myself to prove mind over matter. Heck, like so many times previous, jokes about snapping like a twig, blowing away with the wind, hiding behind a sapling, weakness in general, abounded. One of the foremen, Gerald I worked under, began to consistently tell me I was too smart for this. You know, after the months of insults passed, I had stayed and snuffed the reality of these jabs, whoops, jests. That was the real joke. I wasn't any smarter than him. In his own words, the dying part is easy. It's the living that's hard. He was as absolute shit at training as any manager I've worked under. Fucking alternating standards, high-minded words of wisdom that obviously applied to everybody else, and let's not leave out the most persuasive and putrid just get her done. Every motherfucker I've had the displeasure of working under speaks out both sides of their fucking mouth. That's of course if they even seem to know how to speak at all, acting like the end goal is holding up a fence to shit talk on all the other lazy, dumb, try-hard, brown-nosing individuals, all the while performing the most basic of your own managerial tasks, like informing, isn't part of the fucking deal. Gerald was no fool, or lazy as so many love to paint him, but he always threw his hat in with the union, and despite his gruff and insulting attitude would always tie conflicts in the yard to the unity we members needed to show publicly in the face of our company and contractors. Times haven't been getting easier during my recollection at least, and Gerald began to take the union's advice, giving only what was required, passive-aggressive protesting our bosses, forcing our union to concede on practices, benefits, pay, retirement, freedom. He was combative with those who dictated the work and demanding of the elected officers representing us. It's hard not to find this an elaborate scheme, fighting a billion-dollar-plus corporation over wages, insurance, rules, equipment and training, with tactics like refusing additive requests, running to mommy, keeping the hall on speed dial, straight calling in absent to apply pressure. How does this aid us when it's time to sit at the table and demand our just desserts? A fucking improv group is what I see. Youngins eager for the opportunity to receive recognition of their effort, or any with an axe to grind, all too happy to ostracize our union brothers till the shoe's on their foot. 'Twas the fate of Jeralelef. Hopefully the opportunity that arose from it was a better one. If I wasn't so eager to kill, the hypocrisy would be gut-bustingly funny. We gotta stay productive. Safety first, no one gets hurt. We need better attendance. No one wants to work these days. We need to be thorough doing the job briefings, and everyone needs to be involved. Job briefings should only take 15 to 20 minutes. Stop peeling out before you're off the clock. It's a new world age era now, guys. Just endless, douchey, dick-faced behavior. Butt-hurt threatening as the fair play of turnabout only applying to self. Petty fucking emotions over assumptions on one another's... Petty fucking emotions over assumptions on one another. Snitching. You either gonna respect the code or you gonna get what you give. Man, I'm being way too generous to you fucks. Fucking voted blatant stupidity down 3 times just to overwhelmingly kneel and suck. Don't you dare use that as an insult, Chris. Who the fuck voted for Biden? I fucking swear to God I'ma punch anyone who voted for that motherfucker. Yuppers, 'cause Biden forced our company to put out its COVID its COVID guidelines. Certainly not the other way around. That's why Trump kept saying all those wonderful liberty phrases and shit didn't shut down till well into 2021. Wait. What? Part of the fun, right, Asplund? Trying to figure out how to keep the bottom line in the green while dealing with a bunch of careless, narcissistic servants, workers, their endlessly entitlement-seeking representation, and a government that, no matter how much money you throw at them, economic growth, essential services you provide, will stick their bloody nose in if the help raises too much of a stink. Every local area you set up shop in has lawyers, judges, elected officials, their wacky regulators, fucking loudmouth do-gooders, and yahoos pretending to offer comparable work rates. From there, every county, every state, every nation, every continent, all containing the next grade of these hurdles with additional unique challenges. Then you've got the business itself. Gotta be creative, innovative to keep the popular optics. Shit, the expenditures from driving your vital commodity, marketable service, into bankruptcy, aka the forfeiture of assets. Additionally, perhaps the access to obtain assets. Consolidating ownership, encouraging the creation of a top-down structure, offering commands, not suggestions, pushing rhetoric for clarification of requirements, standardizing every little operation thinkable. All of that makes perfect sense to me, especially when sitting in the union meetings where a bunch of ingrates caught up in their personal BS shout repetitive statements at the negotiators who have the knowledge, experience concerning the thrice said operations requests. Of course, that is, if there is more than 10 of us that show up. I guess if there's only a handful of us, discussions are a hell of a lot easier. Discussions are a hell of a lot easier to manage, organize, silence. Oh no. Oh, not that. Oh, not the last one. Cocking bastardized liquid shitting less than microbial arse groupthink. Grr. It'd be like 4:30 in the morning and I'd be still trying to get laid. And then I had to be up at 7 to go to my construction job. I'd come home and fall asleep before I even got my clothes off. I'd just hit the fucking bed, sideways, out cold, wake up in the morning and do it all over again. Working while you're tired when you're a kid is so important. To realize how to power through things because you didn't power through shit when you're a little kid. All of a sudden you have to work. Now you gotta get up at 6. Those summer jobs, those were the big eye-opener for me. That's when I knew I could never work construction. Summer jobs when I was in high school and right out of high school is like, fuck this. I had other jobs that weren't as hard. I was a dishwasher. Then I was a cook. Wasn't that hard. I mean, it sucked. It wasn't fun. But that was like my only job that I had had until I started construction jobs. When you're a laborer, you're a 16-year-old laborer on a construction site. Fuck your life. Look at all the contradictions riddled throughout that statement. Irritating vocalizations on lacking willpower, the effort required by certain forms of employment, blatant doublespeak about out all night, then work so hard no time for silliness. And no, I am not speaking of the quote alone. Stupid idioms I have been hearing in its 10,000 forms for the entirety of my life. So yeah, Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, Jeff Foxworthy, Wanda Sykes, Whitney Cummings, Ari Shaffir, Joey Diaz, Ken Jeong, Ali Wong, Jordan Peele, Tom Segura, Ellen DeGeneres, Ali Sadiq, Carl Benjamin, Ethan Klein, Chris Rock. Put me in Will Smith's camp. For real. I've tried to learn and witness a lot of shit. But seeing that go down might possibly wind up being the greatest highlight of my life. The only issue now is trying to figure out whose side I perceive to be the most incorrect. I didn't get to watch it go down live, but I watched it plenty of times the next day. For about a full second after first watching Smith take the stage and T-slap Rock, I was laughing hysterically just thinking, yeah, sucks when words have consequences, don't it? It's insanely unfortunate that I immediately associated the look on Rock's face with one I had felt myself wear too many times. I only know my own thoughts, but words like indignation, confusion, anger, betrayal surface in my mind, at which point I found myself singing a different tune. Cocksucking fucker thinking he's superior, that his status allows him to walk up there and slap another motherfucker like he owns the bitch. Anything is a weapon with enough force applied. Anything is a weapon with enough force applied. No matter their stature, skills, or power, they all bleed. So fuck that shit. Stab the hell out of them, Chris. Fantastic how such little things will send me into a frothing rage, and similar stupid little details leave me cursing my own emotions. The act of saying the name I share causing amusement at the thought of talking to myself again. I used to be so fucking pissed on the prevalence of my name, and yet, the older I get, the more meaningless I find it to be. Names in general, that is, but including my own. Names in general, that is, but including my own. Ah, words. Language. Fucking tripe. Gotta love it. Disgusting lies. Absolute dog shit constantly spewing from the mouths of all across generations. Purpose, meaning, understanding driven from them, although it was the only reason for their existence in the first place. And all I can manage in their defense is a pathetic 200-plus page diss at, well, everything under the fucking sun. Like they're poking... like they're poking fun at extreme hyperbole. And don't lie, even if not at me or my words. The fact that you would be so blasé about it shows you don't understand how important it is. You motherfuckers miss the point, not I. I'm literally imitating you in those moments and watching as the same compassion, comprehension I showed you is I'm literally imitating you in those moments and watching as the same compassion, comprehension I showed you is expectorated out your nostrils in my face. Time and time again, backstabbing, gossip, misuse of property, no fucks given about anything that isn't directly tied to your ass, and even then it's only as many fucks as you want to give, and God help the motherfucker you've called out previously if they return the favor. Can there really be any question as to how we've come to this point, when it's all caused by us? Of course, companies, governments, assemblies push for control advantage. No soul would have any other goal due to those words seemingly describes the basic steps for understanding, culminating, hopefully, in the ability to avoid hazards, damages, so whatever outcome desired becomes reality. Fucking bitching, moaning, gnashing of teeth over the walk you'd take in a heartbeat when it becomes your path, no matter whose backs pave the road. Ugh. Yes, I'm sure you have your little buddies that might be lucky enough to walk at your side, instead of under your heel. Sound familiar? They would have earned it though, right? Proven beyond any shadow of a doubt what diligent, honest, and good people they are, deserving of such responsibility, grace. Not like those previously in command, or maybe hollering alongside you for the same change. Or screaming the same meanings just on the other side of the fence. How long will I try? Get a hold of yourself. No different with you. Nothing new to see here. The male youth crisis. I swear to whatever God you prefer, I swear to whatever God you prefer, I am not snickering. Over the thoughts you might assume, at least. There's nothing there that hasn't already... There's nothing there that hasn't always been prevalent at all other moments. Its factors, components, agents almost identical to all the social issues, policies that we have cycled before our eyes to be haggled over because words solve problems. Tantamount to action, you know. I'm sure the poor chick I got a bit too handsy on the dance floor with surely took my immediate repeal and apologies as equal to the first act. I do mean immediate repeal. The instant she showed displeasure, aggression, I backed way the fuck off and never looked her way again after putting my hands up and apologizing. Was the damage already done? The internet still rages on. Hell, to make sure I wasn't even at the same club any longer, I gave up on dismissing the advances of some swinger couple and wound up fucking some cuck's wife at their house. Long before this moment, I ceased being the loudly self-declared chivalrous cringe peacock I had proved not in my character. But that didn't mean I had to quit standards. Yes, I was the overzealous, unbearable women's rights activist. The equal right starts with equal pay and all that jazz. Definitely the kind of repulsive douche that said nonsense like all men are trash. A man never has good reason excuse to hit or assault a woman. Heh. Even after I grew up enough to understand what absolutist, fatalistic garbage that was, I would still promptly declare that I, personally, would never, under any circumstance. There is always a better way. Still believe it, can't say it honestly anymore. It puts a serious hole in the grandstanding when one of the reformed addicts you let in your apartment while getting hammered decides to check your vitals with buckets of water and hair pulling. Outside of fucking around, I've ceased putting definitive judgments on a human's intent. Ambiguous shit talking on general fuck-ups. I can't shake the hindsight of these statements becoming challenges to my future. It doesn't matter what circumstances surrounded the event. The second I gained semi-consciousness and went to swinging blindly, I made my decision. Now I'm a liar, so never say never. I made that whole situation myself. Started the second I listened to my second-in-command at Leavenworth Little Caesars and started hiring chicks. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Had to walk my co-manager through this as well. I had every confidence that the women I would hire could just as easily be trained to complete the work tasks, assist in counting and managing product, staff, cleaning and maintaining the store and equipment, etc., etc. The mystery was whether the now majority of dudes in my store would remember their training, would continue to uphold a solid work ethic, would recognize that the time they were wasting spitting their best game was the time necessary for prepping so there wouldn't be frustrations later. Spoiler alert, I wound up one of the only dudes in the store. Oh boy, one of. Fucking stupidity, the gender-sex discussions. Psh. Arguments all sound like endless cheese graters on chalkboards. How much goddamn copium you men need to inject in the morning to believe that science proves men are physically stronger, predisposed to lust, anger, proves men are physically stronger, predisposed to lust, anger, intellect, or calmer, more reasonable, more trustworthy, logical instead of emotional. Pseudoscience. We love our terms. Societal construct. Those ladies busted ass. Those who pushed for it easily put times up that rivaled any of the best records by the other guys and I. The dudes, no matter the generation, were just as likely to call in, act shitty from a bad day, or fuck around on the goddamn phone. Fuck you cocks. You ever consider for half a fucking second that any, and I mean any, difference in skill or physicality spawns from literal millennia of encouraging those fucking roles from literal fucking conception? A stupid ass zygote. And that's being kind to all you thrice-fucked creationists only putting millennia in there. I mean, for fuck's sake, you all act like a bunch of high school girls well past adulthood, creating your little fucking cliques, talking shit behind each other's backs the second an opportunity presents itself. I need to stop repeating myself. I don't think any of you douchebags I currently... I need to stop repeating myself. Don't think any of you douchebags I currently work alongside are any different or better. Fucking hell, I would have loved to see... fucking hell. I would have loved to have any of you in my store to see how long you held that nose of yours in the air. We'd see how big your britches were when you're wiping actual shit off around the toilet on your hands and knees for $7.25 an hour. And then I laughing in your face at the slop you'd tried to pass off as good enough. Oh sure, maybe your first 2 weeks would be great. But what about after the third paycheck? Or maybe the fifth when you're still behind on the rent from last month and you're staring down its barrel once more. Who am I kidding? Not a one of you would have lasted the 4 weeks to your first $400 to $500 paycheck. Heck, no I in team. Percents, instructions, boundaries, stereotypes, statistics. After beating down the drunk, crack-addled older woman who made such fervent efforts to ensure I hadn't overdosed on alcohol, I got pissed at her in a brief reaction, as if she had chosen for me to wake up swinging, and I didn't even get to have the excuse of blackout drunk. Pretty hard not to put that last one in quotation marks. For a long time I considered that condition to be a lie, another excuse for humans to fabricate a perpetrator for their actions other than themselves. Yes, I got to find out that one the hard way too. Poor Alicia didn't deserve that shit. She had enough on her plate, but everybody's got choices. Yup. Guess what? I still think that shit's just a deflection, whether the condition is a real one or not. Shocker. Maybe there are things that can be both true and false while simultaneously neither. Food for thought for fucking intelligentsia. I really want to stop punching sideways, but I don't see myself getting over it till I can order a fucking fast food hamburger without getting cheese on the fucking thing. Fuck. No. I swear so many fucking retards. Let's add a little clairvoyance to that statement. I am well aware of the stigmatism placed upon the usage of the word like so many others, but that's due to a fundamental misunderstanding of the way such a word should be used. When I say it, contrary to the way it medically infers someone of less mental capacity, I call all those who love to claim themselves normal, sane, or just talks like they're somehow above those just defined, retard. For it applies to y'all, not the afflicted. I said earlier it was almost impossible to hide my glee at the hurt feelings of Dec Petit upon my promotion, and for good reason. In truth, he should have seen it coming from the moment he decided to wage his little war with me. My promotion to entry-level management was very similar to obtaining my own store, and it didn't take long for the pattern to emerge. Every new hire I took an interest in for training to progress in efficiency would become a target for Dec Petit's worst antagonism. So many good employees lost over fucking drama. I recognize my own choices here, just as I'll give the benefit of subconscious behavior to him. I believe it started that way for myself. I innately strove to prove the value of all beings, a quirk, characteristic, flaw, inconsequential to the help they could provide. Perhaps seeing those he deemed unfit rise above expectations caused him to double down without knowing it. But I saw it, and I began to think it my next vendetta. So many times I encouraged and reminded the workers who strove for diligence, patience, acknowledgement. Let the words, acts be water off the back. Your reaction is what is wanted. Don't satisfy or justify their jackassery. I attempted every way I could to give insight towards my will to ignore disparagement, and then crush the implications with deed. While there were many failures, one success proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that we're the fucking retards. Wish I could remember his name, but I remember that sickening demeanor Dekpati showed upon hiring him. The inclusivity hire that everyone loves to snicker about. The moment I saw that poor handicapped young adult get only shaker board hours, I knew what had to be done. The best heartbreaking detail of it all was my own misconceptions. Here I was, no better than those slinging dirt, falsely assuming my wish to help somehow negated my preconceived thoughts of the difficulty in imparting knowledge to someone with his mental impairment. Like he was different somehow. Motherfucker just needed someone that actually gave a flying fuck about teaching. About treating them as the fucking equal they are. So the fuck what, it took him a bit of time. I fucking empathize with that. Maybe if fuckers in charge gave half an ass about wisdom, we'd all see my words ring with truth. He picked up the training just as quickly as any other, maybe even faster. I didn't even bother to hide my sinister glee, pestering Dekpati over his begrudging acceptance of the stored dunce as an actual component of operations. When the rush hits and customers start, well, only an ultramaroon would choose to have an able body stand at the side of the road with the corporate logo instead of serving every customer with a smile and a perfect pizza in less than 30 seconds every time. I've just grown so much beyond those aforementioned misconceptions. I don't know if that ignoramus hot and ready promise will still get you a free hot and ready pizza. But there it is, almost an entire decade later, and that quote still burns as the day I first branded it in my mind. Mental health. What kind of fucking nonsense was that when this whole fucking anti-vaccination craze made its latest damn cyclical run through our media? But the examples throughout all recorded history were seriously confused as to the fucking distrust over institutions like the medical pharmaceutical industries by those mocked, used, discarded, ignored from the very beings that compose said business, assist the legislation causing ire. Come on now. I know most of you have that fancy little fucking framed paper proving you're smarter than I. How are those without all that time? How are those without all that time and capital, or have anecdotal experience that cast doubt, supposed to react as they are told by human beings about the changes coming to their lives, and fuck your questions. It'll work itself out because the greater good. I digress. Let's not play favorites, as I can almost feel the smiles from those who nod to these points. What the fuck is it then? What the fuck is it? Is all that shit devil's work, or do we love the science? Everybody losing their minds over studies, statistics, corruption, biases, and then you want to turn around and try biology, psychology against trans people? I know. I get it. The last person you want to defend your cause is I. My apologies to all transgender sexual beings. You'll wish I hadn't spoken even more so soon. Like any other, I went through a questioning phase during my early teenage years. Started around the time I began masturbating. My obsession with soft, smooth textiles would later evolve into my current fetish of lingerie, and the trigger for that in particular was probably the moment as a teenager I snuck a pair of undergarments from my aunt visiting for the holidays. The adrenaline spike was insane, silently trying to find a pair that satisfied the emotion of aesthetic sensuality, lust. Unfortunately, I got scared before I could return my stolen goods to hide my tracks, and when I heard the upset commotion over the possibility of the missing clothes, I took the quickest opportunity to rid myself of incriminating evidence. How was I supposed to know she had suffered even worse abuse than I? Totally didn't have any effect on memory, right? I gained enough confidence from that success to jack a slip from my mother before I called it quits until I could purchase my own little collectibles. All of my deeds performed before the age of 18 were done under almost complete sobriety, so I was still getting horrific nightmares and not all focused on a catastrophe or gore or degeneracy. I guess depends on your definition for that last one. Some of the most vivid and thought-provoking dreams revolved around myself as a woman. Sometimes I would be changed by some undefined means, or just that's how it had always been. Some were sexual, while others were no different than the norm, just a different sex. It never helped that I was effeminate in a variety of ways, a constant point of contention being the length of my hair. I was smart enough to have my excuses. The rebuttals to asswipes pretending my long hair made me girly somehow. As if it mattered. Shouldn't have even bothered wasting mental capacity. Renowned warriors across nations and eras wore their hair as such, let alone everybody's favorite Mary Sue. I still have the random moments of crushing doubt, but I've never liked having a question unanswered. Leaving my parents' house gave me the freedom I needed, and I stopped questioning my gender when I stopped questioning my sexuality. For a short while, I labeled myself bisexual, even though I didn't really have any knowledge to say such. If I was a bit more tapped into the lingo, bi-curious would have been more appropriate. Super big surprise here, I was fascinated with Greek history, which initially had me spouting thoughts about recognizing aesthetic beauty in any form was the opposite of unmanly. Praising strength, efficiency, critical thinking, health, and fitness were essential to building strong bonds. I wasn't ashamed to state the physical attractiveness of other dudes. Next step was to make an honest fella out of myself when I say you can't knock it till you try it. Estros was more than willing to help me answer those questions. I feel bad for how the rejection went down, but I hate playing games. He was quite handsome, had an SLC punk vibe that Yalohila, Talahir, and I thought super hot. But I knew the first time we made it out that this probably wasn't for me. But I knew the first time we made out that this probably wasn't for me. I told myself, like with so many drugs, that dipping my pinky in the pool was not testing the water. I'm not advocating for channeling your inner lemming, but I gave it a real attempt one night, and after further foreplay, I had to stop it. It wasn't stimulating, no matter how exciting, and I ultimately blamed my distaste for anal over it. I know. I'm a fucking alien. I hate cheese and anal. Not like I won't compromise. I mean, I'm the guy with a bunch of fetishes. I can handle giving my significant other something they want. Though, I will advise self-experience before giving your girl the ultimatum that you'll only sodomize her if she returns the favor. Practice time is over when that strap cinches. I mean, I did ask for it, I guess. I did ask for it. Guess, careful what you wish for. Getting back to the point, Estros took my callousness well, at least to my face, and we just went back to being friends. I was excellent at remaining friends with former romances, which I thank my socio-psychopathic, mind-numbing obliviousness for aiding me in having no cares about others' feelings or opinions or machinations involving me. Maybe I just never shook off the shock of meeting a sexually active bisexual 13-year-old while my 15-year-old self attempted to edgelord away from the family at a water park. Whatever she thought she saw in me wore off fast when she realized I'm a tad prudish in public. It was a good learning experience for the next tween that tried to strut her stuff a year or so later while I was dating Ella Rain. It's not cheating if it's different zip codes. Yeah, that was part of our last conversation. Look, I wish people peace, tranquility, joy, with the tribulations foisted on them out of their control. Do I wish people would refrain from mutilation for the sake of vanity? Yes, but that is a decision I get to make for myself and not any other living thing besides me. I also recognize the gray areas. Where do we draw the line of mutilation? Do we allow seriously injured flesh to rot, heal? Perhaps debilitating genetic natal defects must be left to fester, destroy. Leviticus 19... Leviticus 19, verse 27. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor paint any marks upon you. Leviticus 21, verse 17. Speak unto Aaron, saying, Whosoever he be of thy seed, in their generations that hath any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God. For whatsoever man he be that hath a blemish, he shall not approach. A blind man or a lame, or he that hath a flat nose, or anything superfluous, or a man that is broken-footed or broken-handed, or crook-backed, or a dwarf, or that hath a blemish in his eye, or be scurvy or scabbed, or hath his stones broken. Only he shall not go in unto the veil, nor come nigh unto the altar, because he hath a blemish, that he profane not my sanctuaries, for I, the Lord, do sanctify them. Mark 9, verse 40. Therefore if thine hand offend thee, cut it off. Or if thine brother offend thee, and confess not, and forsake not, he shall be cut off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed, than having 2 hands, to go into hell. And again, if thy foot offend thee, cut it off. For he that is thy standard by whom thou walkest, if he become a transgressor, he shall be cut off. Therefore let every man stand or fall by himself, and not for another, or not trusting another. And if thine eye which seeth for thee, him that is appointed to watch over thee, to show thee light, become a transgressor, and offend thee, pluck him out. For every one shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt, but the salt must be good. Mark 10, verse 16. And Jesus said unto him, Why callest thou me good? None is good but one, that is God. Mark 14, verse 19. The Son of Man indeed goeth as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Good were it for that man if he had never been born. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. Meats for the belly, and the belly for meats, but God shall destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a harlot? God forbid. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? Language is fucking lies. I'm sick of hearing about innocence. There are none. If you speak, you lie. Hell, even if you're mute, you're no exception. Fucking tell me again how you don't like lying. What the fucking hell is that grandstanding you fucking play on your sleep schedule? Why you fucking don't want to deal with bad attitudes, procrastination, and poor memory attendance? How fucking hard you bust ass? When do those you trash fucking earn the encouragement to stay strong, or the calm, cohesive instruction patiently spaced based on the trainee's retention, or even your goddamn outside voice without it being filled with enough vitriol to be misinterpreted? Where's my goddamn rope cleared? Fucking gear set out, and I mean the whole fucking 9 yards. The fuck be my properly stacked fucking brush for the fucking sake of all that's fucking terrestrial? Fucking Christ, how many more ground workers will I have to watch you shit on, even when minute progress is presented? Supposedly don't give a fuck about micromanaging, but your commands, advice changes with no explanation, and or any obvious alterations in surroundings. This way, no that way, just figure it out, then 10 minutes later, why don't you just do this? You imagine you compound the problem by remaining in ours? Or is it all their fault? You know, not their dad, they're adults. Fucking literally, in every possible interpretation, you are no better than the lazy, racist, drunkard womanizer Gerald Elef, and he was almost 10 years your senior when I was his groundman. Go ahead and keep lying to yourself about the Sycamore, though. Not like I've played groundman for all y'all. Yeah, I'm speaking directly to your ass now, so you don't read my fucking mind. You fucking get why it's taken so fucking ass long to finish this heaping hill of refuse yet. Fucking bring all your model shit in to try and accomplish something within our 30-minute lunch break and see how pleasant and fulfilled it fucking leaves you. I'll just shut the fuck up now. Please fucking do. Shut the fuck up for all goddamn eternity, and maybe some shit could fucking move forward. Chris. Fucking shit cock. Fucking shitting all over easily the hardest fucking worker in the fucking lot when the problem is every fucking one of you. Motherfucker doesn't deserve half the dirt I threw there. That doesn't make any of it less true. In other words, for everything I may have said at him and more applies to all the rest of you tenfold. Worthless as ground workers, and you pass that paltry effort to the next round of newbies. I have yet to see real motivation, regardless of age, for actual caring, for taking pride in the work you perform. Not a one day in, day out, when you present. Not a one day in, day out, when present, attempts to keep a clean work area, ensures they stack every pile of limbs with feeding it through the chipper in mind, always leaving a walk path, attentiveness during the moments of peace, calm, recognizing that there is always work to be done. Hell, shit, even as simple as being out the goddamn truck when it stops in full uniform. For real, absolutely pathetic how useless some of you be. How fucking hard is chalks, cones, signs. This temporary traffic control is communication for the ignoramuses like yourselves behind screaming metal death machines. Equipment properly greased, cleaned, maintained, and safely stored. Brush retrieval for the trimmers nonchalantly leaving fucking chaos in their wake. Inventory management for the old heads caring so much about organization, tool placement, proper electrical insulation, leaving their shit strewn everywhere. We'll top it off with a 500-plus page novel you are solely responsible for memorizing. You know, the one you all graduated from by demonstrating your encompassing knowledge on the information by reading it your fucking selves. Fuck out of here, jumping that groundman's ass. You're responsible for reading your line clearance qualification standard. co-opting my accomplishments like they're your own. Keep my fucking name out of your mouth and eat this dick, fuckers. You forget I watched the old school die off. You jackwagons finally having moved past the basic employment level have no interest in being legit on the ground because it would only prove you just as wrong as all the innovators, managers, owners, previous generations whimpering about meritocracy. The increase in pay per step of job title is an acknowledgement of increased performance load, i.e., you are not just a fucking trimmer or a foreperson, but a groundman too. The disparity of income between the titles shouldn't be as large as you all love to squawk. If there was any honesty about the tasks of the ground, it would be recognized as the most difficult, strenuous, taxing. I am flabbergasted as to how admitting this somehow detracts from the larger picture of being owed our freedom, as if somehow accepting that the most physical tasks performed by the real pace setter makes the other duties less demanding. I need to wrap this up. I'm tired of punching sideways. It's fucking depressing. Only so much ground to go. Only so much to go around. Can't give everybody one. Might be none left. Or lower its value. Utility. Supply and demand. Inflation. What about those who work harder than others? And on and on and on. Okay. Winners and losers. You ain't lost until you're dead. You ain't lost till you're dead. Though, if you're Christian, then you should agree with my unwanted belief that it's actually the ultimate win for self. You know, dying with knowledge that your faith was strong and your works matched it, so you'll be rewarded by God at Judgment Day because his Son, a.k.a. God made flesh, conquered death. Swear I'm not laughing. God's chosen people. You ever think that might play a little bit into the antagonism you suffer, Israel? Or maybe felt your ears burning at any other sections that didn't bring you up directly? So many times throughout your own records, your prophets railed against your sins, promised your destruction, the loss of your inheritance. I'm not interested in a debate over who wrote what and historicity of transcription, translation, but I take issue with interpretation. I don't believe the silliness I was raised on of Moses being the author of the first 5 books of the Old Testament, but no matter which book of the Bible I read, I hear the core of those 10 commandments. The ones that boil down to don't be an asshole. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Freedom for all. You've consistently proved you're the same as all humanity. Can't be satisfied with such simplicity. We gotta play lawyer, doctor, scientist, economist, desperate to carve exemptions, invent loopholes. Like an all-powerful being is gonna just be like, oh, you got me. Hadn't never thought of that scenario before. Just that quick, I'm back to being a dumbass. Whatever. Keep pretending like your shit don't stink, and watch Hamas, Ishmael, burn your nation to the ground and scatter your populace in yet another tragic historical moment for all humanity. Fulfilling the precious patriarchal prophecy that fucking evangelicals who installed you pathetically predict persistently. You fed the rise of your own haters, same as the Third Reich. You harp incessantly on your affliction, crying for ostracization. Ostracization on those engaged in the slightest discussion, not screaming for the blood of the offending humans. Everything is Nazi, Hitler, anti-Semitism, as though it's the only instance of affliction in your history, or even the worst. How do you not see your own outrage fueling the disenfranchised, the ones shown kindness by your enemies, to take up these mantras? Why am I even bothering with the original gangsters of white nationalism? My beef lies with the ones I mentioned early, the real guilty party. Us, my own nation, my people, the United States of the Americas. I don't know where the line of blame is drawn between a nation's leader and its people. I consistently remind myself that the actions of one are theirs alone because the reactors bear the burden of theirs. Don't get to slough it on to another as their fault for your behavior. If an elected or an appointee of the elected gropes somebody, I don't think we all now need to be randomly handled inappropriately. I will continue blaming every soul living in this country for every death brought by our obliterating economic assimilation. No matter what soil the atrocities occur on, I will curse every individual inhabiting status, presuming authority of others, that leads, regardless of intent, into ignorance, conformity, obedience. Just sum it as slavery. Black. I'm just bitching over another piece of the democratic problem. Popularity. Wielding such as a banner. It sucks I used you, Marshall, but you've got an avid enough fan base proving every last thing wrong with humanity on a scale comparable to mainstream. Though that's how you attracted them to begin with, right? You're just low-hanging fruit because of name recognition. It sucks because it almost feels undeserved. But I've caught enough glimpses that it doesn't matter the hate or love placed on your name. I know you're just another human. Not special. Riding out your time to benefit from the fuck status quo that enables your hype. Only unique, because nobody else is you. Maybe you'll get some peace now the blacks got their colored rap savior now. I mean, the whiteys all bowed the knee and gave him one of their awards. Shit. Motherfucker. You best quit that crown portrait you keep painting. You ain't even close to the standard to dignify adopting such symbology. Too fragile to understand even a fraction of humility. Control. Keep it up, though. All the martial maniac reactors be eating your shit right up. Swooning over every fucking syllable the same as their idol. Of course, God forbid we apply the same diligence and grace when breaking down other music. We'll just let even the most obvious doubles fly on by without batting an eye. Fuck. Can't stop being an ass. It was not my right way for J. Cole to handle himself how he did. But it was a right way. Hopefully his. I hate my shit all through this because this shouldn't be imitated. It teaches nothing. I mean, I threw those quotes on Stan the one time I used it in an obvious display of distaste for the term. I could sing some nonsense about how terms for this already existed, like fanatic or zealot, amongst others. Maybe tinge it with some distaste for ignorance or laced with superiority, expounding on etymology, BS. But I almost think this is why the term exists, so why do I care? I mean, fan gets thrown around so casually had to have a word with more meaning, impact. The fact that it's conscientious... The fact that it's contentious only aids its virality, right? However, soon we're saying everyone's hysterical and it's lost the outrage, so then we gotta take it back, wait. Huh. Cracker, kike, chink, kraut, beaner, gook, nip, redneck, raghead, lobsterback, Injun, Cossack, Mick, fleece, wop, hillbilly, insults. Words with no real power, but that which we give them by allowing the word to be defined by the acts justified alongside its utterance. Sure, get pissed with people spouting nigger this and coon that, or any of the ridiculous amount of slurs for Americans we've crafted. Shout about insinuations as if it applies to you or the motherfuckers looking like you. Any of you religions believing in the Tower of Babel story ever ponder if there was a more obvious answer? Like someone capable of creating all the insanity on this planet, in this universe, might have just been warning about humanity's proclivity to douchebaggery and reactive secretiveness, perhaps even changing the way we vibrate the air in our throats for whatever emotional reasons. Maybe a call to those OG commands that should have never needed to be on a tablet to help not be an ass and refrain from fucking one another. Occam's razor. Again, why do I care? I can barely comprehend mathematics due to my inability to see it as any more than invented imaginary human bullshit. Its daddy language is no different. Hence, lies. So dumb. Not just me, but anything capable of speech using it for the praise of a chromosome. Specifically, men. The one with the Y. Fucking pathetic. I'll tell the reason for no real men left. 'Cause they dead. Darwined themselves. From what I can read, that's what being a real one boils down to. Stoicism in the face of crisis. Calm when surrounded with emotion. Resolve for standing firm when outspoken, outnumbered, outmatched, strength to take a hit, courage when staring down evil. Those actions get you killed, or at the very least incentivizes silence among those traits. I don't want to hear from anyone alive now anyway. You fucks can't even handle toilet seats. Go take your lies elsewhere. I meant that statement in every way, from putting things back the way you found it, cleaning up after yourselves, and just what form is acceptable to use the fucking pointless invention. Barf. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Lunacy. The most basic thing evil needs is human beings acting instinctually off their gut with the presumption of goodness. However, that's interpreted, and I'm being extremely conservative. The men lauded about so vigorously don't exist, if they ever even did outside of words. Just go read that speech I quoted. I'll reiterate the answer to me isn't anarchy, throwing out all the rules and letting nature take the reins. No, we don't all need to be locked up for reparations because inhuman immigration, war crimes, genocide, thugs in the inner city running organized crime rings, or inappropriate political posturing simply exists. Nor am I advocating for a French Revolution. Already had one of those, and look where we all are now. My wrath with you rich fucks is that none of your shit will affect you. You're playing us, intentionally or not, since your status, wealth, some of this power, will keep you from the very laws you espouse. I'm not impressed with the push to join the rat race either. I'm shit with hearing, even if spoken at with sufficient volume and enunciation. My brain is slow to process and then form a response. I always had to hide a laugh when people would make the complaint of hip-hop or rap being incoherent. I consistently messed up the lyrics of all songs. I had to look them up if I wanted to know what was being said. Well, still gotta do that. Prefer my versions, so why bother? Yeah. Like having it in writing makes a difference. I was drawn to Nietzsche from that silly God is dead misquote. And we have killed him. The bastion of free knowledge wasn't as readily available when I first pronounced my atheism. Once I got to college, I was able to get the context, and I was instantly hooked right up till I figured out dude was a fucking theist. totally believed in God, yet you're going to lie your ass off trying to frame the man's admonishment to organized religions, twisting gospel as atheism. There is choice everywhere. Some of us find it easier to perform outstanding acts or expound on civil acuity, perhaps spin normality on a grand stage. And who are we to deny the fruits of their labor while benefiting in some capacity? The smart ones dress it up nicer. Was that how they got you, YouTube? I remember when the platform first took form, and all my one-day hipster gamer schoolyard friends of the time were all about it. No more did we have to pose as 12-year-old girls on public chats for entertainment. Now we had weird-ass clips, music videos, and bootleg episodes movies. It took a few more years for the platform to grow on me, only to see it snatched away with the advent of commercials and paid YouTubers. Where's the meme of that moment captured with the picture of Padme saying, "So this is how liberty dies," with thunderous applause? Stop being a fuckwad, Chris. It probably exists anyway. I just find it difficult to see you pose as something you are not. You already sold any claim to that when you decided this was beyond art and or knowledge. It was economy. Everything is so political nowadays, except it always has been. Every single time, humanity just can't seem to stop itself from categorizing, co-opting even the smallest accomplishments for personal enrichment. And if it closes the door on the rest of us, the price of business, I guess. That is till, of course, the next new fad closes the door on you. Then rally the troops, fans, fellow disenfranchised supporters. I love your music, Hobson, and I really wanted to throw your name in previously, but my love of ancient history told me from a young age that the people who invented college did go to college. A specified location for the pursuit and respect of knowledge. The ideologue of a communal place for intellect to be garnered and shared equally. A reality for those willing to jump through the hoops. Politics. A treatise on political science, specifically the one written by Aristotle. The art or science of government, dealing with the form, organization, and administration of a state or part of a state, and with the regulation of its relations with other states. Public life and affairs involving the authority and government of a state or part of a state. We must, as in every human, find some way to separate emotion from the discussions of how our lives are carried out day to day at any scale, which is how I define politics. If we can't stare into the abyss, then there will never be any understanding of overcoming it. There were many years between the time I misinterpreted that quote and realizing I had co-opted the point as my own. From the get-go, I felt the quote's intention was to caution being consumed by the acknowledgement of pain, suffering, evil, but to refuse attempting, regardless of scope, for fear of failure was not how I saw an Ubermensch. Failure was just another abyss. Blah. I'm wandering off topic. The manner in which we conduct speech with one another has to change. All the parables, metaphors, labels, statistics, they're not helping. They can be twisted, undermining any potential for progress they could hold because the focus becomes verbiage, not the act. Unfortunately, I don't see calm and logical responses. I mean, what is logic? What are facts? There's the humor. About murdered that confused little Aryan shit that night. Couldn't have cared less about his ridiculous ancient aliens, government cabal conspiracies, right till he pulled that phrase in response to my calm and slow dismantling of his very scattered beliefs. Thank God for Yalahila and Esteros.